They've been pointing north for some time.
They're in here causing all kinds of problems.
That was Richmond. In Franklin County.
This is probably the largest heroin bust that I'm aware of in the county.
And then there's Lexington. A heroin ring arrested at the Hyatt last year. A total of 198 heroin arrests in the city. Much of the source, a 5.5-hour straight shot from here. Court documents show that 1 out of 6 people arrested on first-degree trafficking and heroin cases in Lexington since January 1 claim the hometown of Detroit.
Heroin in this area tends to follow that I-75 corridor from, Detroit down.
And with the recent spike in Lexington violence, 6 murders and 20-plus shootings since June 11th.
Illegal drugs are largely fueling the violence on our streets.
So we headed up to the place known as the start of the heroin highway, where the violence, we're told, is born and grows and leaves.
If you're seeing an uptick in that in Lexington, Kentucky, just look to Detroit. Look at that history. It could be what's driving it.
Former FBI Special Agent Andy Arena and former Detroit police officer Lyle Dungy, both now with the Detroit Crime Commission, took us for a ride through the east end of Detroit.
This is where they do what they do.
An area referred to as the Red Zone, run by a gang called the 7 Mile Bloods, where getting out of the car to shoot video was out of the question.
You'll see the red spray paint.
That's them.
Yeah.
They ride with windows cracked, easier to hear screams and gunshots.
It's the reality.
Obvious signs that we need to leave. We stopped, though, in a safe zone to talk.
You saw it for yourself, those guys flashing gang signs at. So there were at least 2 situations where we drove by where there were known gang members, and they saw us, they saw your cameras, and they weren't happy.
And we went by, you said we went by the first time, not too much of a concern, but the second time was when they were wanting to know why we were there.
First time they're looking at you, who are you? The second time they're basically challenging you. They're throwing gang signs to alert you who they are. The third time, who knows? There wasn't going to be a third time. We're going to put you guys in that situation.
But most of the drive there was no one to see.
This whole block might be gone.
Just burned out homes or nothing.
I used to do a lot of raids in this area, and back then it didn't look as bad as it does now.
Dungy and Arena say work they've done to stop drug trafficking on these streets has pushed some of the trouble out.
The Detroit police learned a lot of things. The dopers learned a lot of things.
And south.
It was a cat and mouse game over a period of years.
They say the 7 Mile Bloods are a gang known to export mainly heroin down I-75.
And if you got a bunch of people fighting over the same drug trade here, take the show on the road.
And the money's better for the Detroit natives down there than it is here.
Absolutely, absolutely. The profits that can be made down south are double, triple what can be made up here. And the gangs know that, and they go down there to try to exploit that.
Lexington officials say that exploitation has slowed as of late. With drug stings focusing on heroin, they're getting a handle on who's bringing it in and the potential of the violence the out-of-towners in turn carry with them.
When you get a spike like that, it's usually, there's some underlying current, something's causing it.
Last week, police ended a 9-month drug operation. They blocked off several streets for the sting, but we'd soon find out there was one building of particular interest to investigators.
A vast majority of our purchases were made in or on the property.
A store called the M&M Grocery, and the 2 people that work there, Imad Hamdan and Abdel Karim Hamdan, police charged with welfare fraud. Police saying not only do the 2 allow drug deals to go on in and around their store, but they also abuse SNAP benefits by allegedly letting customers use their food stamps for illegal purchases like beer and cigarettes.
They're pointing to M&M Market.
That's lying.
First time we went in the market, Imad Hamdan didn't want to talk, out of jail after last week's arrest and back behind the counter. But we stayed in the neighborhood, and a few minutes later he came out and wanted us to come back in.
How many people he catch in this store selling dog? How many?
He says 30%.
30%. How many people? I need just to show me how many people he catch in the store selling dogs. Nobody sell dogs here.
This map shows the M&M Grocery on the corner of 5th Street and Chestnut, and where police arrested each person from last week's sting. They say 30% were inside or on the property of the market.
And when we launched this investigation, I also gave the proprietors of the market the opportunity to tell me if there was illegal activity on the premises.
But police say the Hamdens denied any knowledge of drugs during their investigation.
Nobody believes that. Nobody believes that.
With everything that's going on over there.
Council member Chris Ford says M&M Market is a store that needs to close for good so this part of town can move on.
There are houses all around that market, and that compounds exponentially the impact that they're having, not in a good way.
You're saying it's the neighborhood. It's
This area, from 2nd to 7th, what I do for, I'm police. I'm not police to stop. We call the police a lot of time, they don't do nothing. That's police job, not my job, for stop people selling dope.
But police claim he and his partner aren't doing their job by the law either. 4 counts of welfare fraud against Ahmad and 2 against his brother.
They showed a willingness to do that over and over and over again.
$4.95 this 139.
Hamden says the proof that he's innocent is in the price. He said police food stamp receipts showed $5.07 for beer and cigarettes. He claims that's not possible to ring up. He says a beer and cigarettes is $6.72.
That's why it's big liar.
so by you
That's
doing
lying.
it with the EBT card.
We don't do it in EBT.
We will file for administrative action against his ABC license.
Once these unscrupulous businesses are gone and their business practices with them, it allows these neighborhoods an opportunity to move on.
Police say they will use all resources available to shut down the shop.
He tried to close the store for EBT or drugs. We don't do drugs, we don't do EBT.
Hamden saying he's ready to fight for his business while police continue to chip away at their ability to run it.
It takes somebody that's been there, done that.
Brandon Dunn says he's a product of his environment. He grew up in the East End of Lexington.
You know, I was selling drugs, I was robbing, I was doing all of that.
He says he was shot days before he was to marry. It was his wife, he says, that eventually showed him a better way to live.
Now I've changed because somebody showed me a better way.
And that's what he wants to do for those who grew up like him. He and his brother have a nonprofit aimed at helping others find jobs while promoting a non-criminal lifestyle.
When you're dealing with an inner city problem, so much stress, so much tension, it's just a matter of time before the shootings are going to take place.
He blames stress for much of the recent violence, lack of education and jobs boiling over into the streets.
There's crime, there's violence, there's shootings. I'm going to say, well, that's not a mystery. Of course we know this is going to happen. Look at the conditions in the area that the violence and the shootings are taking place in.
But he says the 20-plus shootings since June 11th and the 6 murders don't show signs of gang relation. They're all more isolated, going on in multiple areas of the community.
But you don't see any signs of gangs. You don't see any territories being marked. You don't see any gang brawls taking place in the inner city area fighting over territories.
What he sees is anger and frustration of people he says need jobs. He says half of the people where he grew up are unemployed and thinks if more have opportunities, there will be less opportunity for crime.